I'm nothing, she whispered to the dirt beneath her bare feet. The rancher stepped forward, hand extended, and smiled like he knew something she'd forgotten. She stood on splintered wood in the center of a dusty Colorado town, trembling as men shouted prices like she was cattle waiting for slaughter. Her wrists were bound with coarse rope that had rubbed her skin raw. Her dress hung in tatters at the shoulder, exposing scars she wished stayed hidden. She kept her eyes down because looking up meant seeing their faces, faces that saw her as property, as labor, as something less than human. The auctioneer's voice boomed across the gathered crowd, and the numbers climbed higher with each shout. She'd stopped flinching at the sound. She'd learned that flinching only made them laugh. But then someone called an amount that silenced every voice in that square. A man in a weathered hat stepped through the crowd. He didn't look like the others. His face was lined from years under the sun, his hands scarred from honest work. But his eyes weren't cruel. They were steady, calm, almost sad. The auctioneer's gavel cracked like a gunshot. "Sold!" The man approached the platform. She braced herself for rough hands, for being dragged away like the others had done before. But he didn't grab her. He stood just below where she trembled and did something that made no sense. He extended his hand, not to pull or force, but to offer. Before we go further into what happened next, we need your support. Hit that like button, drop a comment telling us where in the world you're listening from, and turn on notifications so you never miss stories like this. Your engagement keeps these tales alive. She stared at his outstretched hand, at the calluses and scars that told stories of hard labor, at the steady way he held it there without demanding, without forcing. Around them, the crowd began murmuring. Winners didn't offer hands. They took what they'd paid for and left. But he waited, patient, his expression never changing. Her hands trembled as she slowly, cautiously, placed one palm against his. His grip was firm but gentle as he helped her down from the platform. The moment her feet touched ground, her knees nearly buckled. She'd been standing for hours, locked in place by terror and exhaustion. He steadied her with his other hand at her elbow. "Can you walk?" His voice was low, roughened from years of speaking mostly to animals and empty land. But there was no cruelty in it, no impatience. She nodded, not trusting her voice. He released her elbow but stayed close as they moved through the crowd. People stepped back, watching with expressions ranging from curiosity to disgust. She heard whispers, some calling him a fool for paying so much, others making crude jokes about what he planned to do with her. The man led her to a horse tied near the gathering's edge. "I can lift you up, or you can use the stirrup. Your choice? Your choice." The words felt foreign. When was the last time anyone had given her a choice about anything? She forced herself to grip the saddle and pull herself up. It took 3 attempts, her muscles weak and uncooperative, but she managed. Some part of her needed to do it herself, needed to prove she wasn't completely broken. He mounted behind her, and she tensed immediately, every instinct screaming that this was when it would happen, when he'd show his true intentions, when the kindness would evaporate. But he kept distance between them, his arms reaching around her only to hold the reins. "We've got about an hour's ride. You can lean back if you need to. I won't let you fall." She didn't lean back, didn't relax, just sat rigid as they rode away from that town, away from that platform, away from the nightmare. They rode in silence. The sun climbed higher, punishing. Her throat was so dry it hurt to swallow, but she didn't ask for water, didn't ask for anything. She'd learned that asking only led to mockery or worse. After what felt like forever, he spoke. "My name's Caleb. Caleb Rivers. I have a place about 12 miles west of town. Small ranch. Just me and some cattle." She didn't respond. Her voice felt locked somewhere deep inside, buried under months of fear. "You don't have to tell me your name," he continued. "Not until you're ready. But I'd like to know it eventually, if that's all right." If that's all right. Another choice. Another impossibility. Exhaustion pulled at her like hands dragging her underwater. She fought it, knowing that letting her guard down was dangerous, but her body betrayed her. Her eyelids grew heavy, her shoulders sagged. His hand moved to her waist, steadying her. "Easy. I've got you. You can rest. Nothing's going to happen." Promises. She'd heard promises before. They always turned out to be lies. But something in his voice made her want to believe. Just this once. Her eyes closed, and despite every warning screaming in her mind, she felt herself lean against him. He didn't tighten his hold, didn't take advantage, just kept the horse moving steadily forward. When she opened her eyes again, the sun had shifted. Ahead stood a small structure, a house made of weathered wood, a barn beside it, a corral with several horses. His ranch, his territory, his rules. This was where she'd find out what he really wanted. This was where the mask would come off. The horse stopped in front of the house. Caleb dismounted first, then reached up to help her down. She ignored his hands and slid off herself, landing hard enough that pain shot through her legs. He didn't comment, just tied the horse to a post and turned to face her. For a long moment, they stood there, her small and trembling, him tall and steady, watching her with those dark eyes that gave nothing away. Then he did something that shattered every expectation she'd built. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper, the bill of sale, the document that proved he owned her. And without a word, he tore it in half. The pieces fluttered to the ground between them. She stared at the torn paper, her mind struggling to make sense of what she'd just witnessed. Men didn't destroy proof of ownership. Men didn't throw away money. Men didn't give up power once they held it. Her breath came fast and shallow. This was a trick. It had to be. "You're free," Caleb said quietly. "That paper was the only thing binding you to anyone. Now it's gone. Free." The word meant nothing. She'd been free once, before men had taken her, before they'd decided she was something to sell. She took a step back, her bare feet scraping against dirt. Her eyes darted around, looking for escape routes. Caleb held up both hands, palms out. "I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going to force you to do anything. You can leave right now if you want. Take the horse. Take food. Whatever you need." She didn't move, because none of this made sense. "Why?" The word came out barely a whisper, her voice rusty from weeks of not using it. He lowered his hands slowly. "Because you're a person, not property. What happened back there was wrong. I had money. I could stop it. So I did. You don't know me." Her voice grew stronger, edged with suspicion. "I could be dangerous." "You could be," he agreed. "But I don't think you will." He turned toward the house, giving her his back, another gesture that made no sense. "There's a room inside. Door has a lock on the inside, not the outside. You can bolt it if you want. There's a bed, a basin for washing. I'll bring food and water in about an hour." He started walking, then paused. "My wife died 2 years ago. I still haven't touched anything in that room. It feels right that someone should use it. Someone who needs it. Wife dead, the words settled over her. She saw it then. The grief that lived in the lines around his eyes. The loneliness that shadowed his movements. He wasn't trying to replace what he'd lost. He was trying to do something that mattered. But understanding his motivation didn't mean she trusted him. He disappeared into the house, leaving her standing alone in the yard. She could run, should run, or she could walk into that house, lock the door, rest for one night, and leave at dawn. Her feet made the decision before her mind caught up. The room was small, but clean. A bed with a faded quilt, a small table with a basin and pitcher, a window with cloth serving as a curtain, and there, on the inside of the door, a metal bolt. She stepped inside and immediately slid it home. The click was the most comforting sound she'd heard in months. Through the door, she heard him moving in the other room. Normal sounds, domestic sounds, the kind that belonged to a life she no longer had claim to. A soft knock made her jump. "I'm leaving a plate out here," Caleb called through the wood. "Water, too. You can get it whenever you want. I'll be in the barn if you need anything." She waited, counted to 200, then carefully opened the door. On the floor sat a plate with bread, dried meat, and cooked vegetables. Next to it, a cup of water. She grabbed both and retreated, bolting the door again immediately. The food was simple, but more than she'd seen in days. She ate slowly, then lay down on the bed, still fully clothed, still ready to run. But exhaustion pulled her under, and for the first time in months, she slept without waking every few minutes in terror. If you're enjoying this story, make sure you're subscribed. We bring you powerful tales like this every week, and your support means everything. Days blurred together. Caleb worked the ranch from dawn until dusk. She stayed close to the house, watching him through windows, searching for cracks in the facade he presented. She found none. Every morning, he left food. Every evening, he returned only after she'd retreated to her room. He never entered without knocking, never demanded anything. On the fourth morning, she ventured outside while he worked in the far pasture. Behind the house lay an overgrown garden, his wife's work, abandoned after her death. Without thinking, she knelt and began pulling weeds. Her hands knew the work. The familiar motion soothed something inside her. She worked for over an hour before realizing Caleb was watching from near the barn. She froze, waiting for him to tell her to stop, to assign her more tasks. Instead, he just nodded once and went back to his work. That evening, she found a pair of worn boots outside her door. Too large, but better than bare feet. Next to them, a hat for sun protection. No note, no explanation. Just practical items left for someone who might need them. She stared at them for a long time before taking them inside. The transformation happened slowly, in moments she barely noticed until they'd already passed. The way she stopped bolting the door every night. The way she started eating at the table instead of hiding. The way she could be in the same space as Caleb without her body tensing in preparation for violence that never came. 2 weeks after she arrived, she was carrying water to the garden when she heard a commotion from the barn. The young horse Caleb had been training was making distressed sounds. She ran inside and found Caleb on the ground, his leg twisted awkwardly. The horse, spooked by something, had kicked him. The animal now stood in the corner, wild-eyed and trembling. For a split second, she considered leaving him there, taking one of the other horses and riding away while he was helpless. This was her chance. Instead, she moved toward the frightened horse, hands out, voice low and steady. She spoke in her mother's language, words of calm and comfort she hadn't used in months. The horse's breathing slowed. She led it to a stall and secured it, then returned to Caleb. "Can you stand?" Together, they made it to the house. His ankle was badly swollen, not broken, but severely sprained. She went to the garden and gathered plants her mother had taught her could reduce swelling and pain. Back inside, she wrapped his ankle with cold compresses and crushed herbs. "You should rest," she said. "Keep the weight off it. Ranch doesn't run itself. Ranch can wait. You can't work on a leg like that." He studied her face, then nodded. "All right." One day turned into 3. Caleb could barely walk, so she did the work, fed the horses, checked water troughs, moved cattle to fresh grazing. The work was hard, but she pushed through. On the 3rd evening, as she returned from checking fence lines, she found him attempting to stand without support. He made it 2 steps before his leg buckled. She caught him before he fell. "You're stubborn," she said. "So are you." But he was smiling slightly. She helped him back to the chair. As she did, their eyes met, really met, for the first time without her immediately looking away. His eyes were kind, tired and sad, but genuinely kind. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for staying, for helping. You didn't have to." "I know." She stepped back. "But you didn't have to do what you did either. I suppose we're even now. Is that what this is? Keeping score?" She considered the question. "I don't know what this is, but I'm not ready to leave yet." The admission hung in the air, the closest she'd come to saying she might stay, might build something here. "Then I'm glad you're here," Caleb said. That night, for the first time, she left her door unbolted. It was a small thing, insignificant to anyone else. But to her, it was monumental. A choice to believe, even tentatively, that she might actually be safe. She closed her eyes, and for the first time in longer than she could remember, felt something that might have been hope. If you enjoyed this story, click the next video to watch another powerful tale from the frontier where courage and compassion forge unexpected bonds. Don't forget to subscribe and consider a super chat to help us keep bringing you stories like these. Your support means the world.